Season 10 of Overwatch 2 is finally giving the damage roll something new to play with, as Venture, the first non-binary hero in the game and the 40th to join Overwatch, was just added to the game on a trial period before their official release, just like Marga back in Season 7. I've spent my time getting familiar with their playstyle across the weekend and I have plenty of thoughts. So how does the Venture experience stack up? Their kit brings a refreshing amount of different abilities and utility to the game, with their primary fire being the Smart Excavator, a weapon that fires an explosive charge that detonates after a short distance, which here means about 15 meters in the air. And personally, I love how this weapon functions in comparison to other heroes in the game. It's completely different to the other options that are available to choose from, but the only real complaint I have about it is that the distance occasionally feels fairly restricting on certain maps and forces you to play out in the middle of nowhere to get some damage out. For example, on Antarctic Peninsula on the Icebreaker point, if the enemy team is defending the point and your team is trying to walk across the catwalk to get there, Venture's primary fire doesn't reach far enough to hit the enemy team unless they're sat partway up it, making them sit out in the open for the most part. I'd personally want to see a slight range increase at a bare minimum, maybe to around 17 or 18 meters, just enough so that there's still some sort of risk in trying to deal damage in certain areas, but not so much that you feel like you're constantly stuck in no man's land. I'm not even saying this as a DPS player, I'm just a tank player that doesn't want to babysit a Venture player that can't grasp the idea of staying near cover all the time. Looking towards their ability to burrow, and honestly one of the only things I hate about it are just the result of my old habits and how I keep using it like Reaper's Wraith form and expect it to grant me invulnerability upon activating it. It's not even a fault of the game, it's a force of habit that has consistently ended up getting me killed at the worst of times. The thing that I'd want changed about the ability though is the small window after Venture comes out of the ground where they can't do anything. I'd want to trim it down slightly, make the animation of it more fluid, and ultimately just tweak it so that you can use the drill dash upon coming out of it sooner rather than having the small delay. Speaking more on the drill dash though, and this might be the most problematic part of their kit for one reason. I used to think that the damage it deals was a bit of a problem, but as I've played more, I've come to realise that the big issue is simply just the fact that it's instant. No wind-up time, no delay after it ends to give a bit of space before firing, nothing. You can instantly do it right after a primary fire, melee or even both, and you can put out at least 175 damage before you can even manage to blink. And with the right combos, you can instantly kill every single DPS and support hero in the game apart from Bastion. Yeah, it's kind of a problem. When you look back to Doomfist when he was a DPS hero, he had small delays after most inputs and had small windows left open for where you could respond to his attacks and defend yourself. Venture is the opposite of this, where you can immediately execute 75% of the entire hero roster with little to no effort whatsoever. For those of you saying to yourselves, what about Widowmaker? I'm talking about super close ranges where it's substantially harder to land a headshot while scoped in. In all honesty, I personally think that the current state of Drill Dash in particular is 90% of the reason as to why Venture is even seen as a good hero right now. The problem is though, if there was a delay added to the Drill Dash, would that render it obsolete? The fact that it's currently such a heavily relied upon ability is both a blessing and a curse in their kit because it enables them into becoming a solid hero pick compared to other durable heroes like Cassidy thanks to the mixture of survivability and elimination potential, but lowering the potency of that could send them off the deep end with pick rates and win rates so low that they'd be down burrowing next to the Titanic. If Drill Dash was to receive a nerf through having a delay added, would there be any compensation against it? Would the primary fire get a slight buff as a result? I honestly have no idea as to what could happen as a response to a possible nerf, but I'll be interested to see what happens if one does come from it. The voice lines and sound cues that also come from most of their abilities, not sure if it's just me, but they seem to be too quiet sometimes. I can basically be in the middle of a team fight and have no idea when they've used anything apart from their ultimate. Speaking of, time to move on to their ultimate being Tectonic Shock. I am a huge fan of this ultimate as a concept, especially when it's being played into bulkier team comps with heroes like Malga and Cassidy, but I feel like the 25 meter range is ever so slightly excessive. Maybe knock it down to 20 at most, perhaps even give it a damage increase from 130 to around 150 to make it more dangerous to deal with. Combined with that, maybe knock it down to possibly 3 shots so it doesn't go overboard. There are a few ways that the devs could go about it, but honestly I would love to see a range nerf to it at the absolute least. And finally, the Explorer's Resolve passive. I honestly thought that this would be super powerful right up until I actually played a game as Venture. The use of abilities granting shields made me think that Venture would be a Brawlcom's dream hero, dealing out tons of damage with shields being handed to them on a silver platter, before burrowing away. Turns out it's nothing remotely close to what I thought it would be. Gaining shields up to 325 total health really doesn't do that much on paper, but it's enough to let them live in certain scenarios before getting away. So there you go, some first impressions on Venture and where the devs might go before they hit the game for real in a few weeks' time. Let us know what you think of the latest DPS hero down in the comments below, and while you're with us, YouTube's recommended this video just for you, so maybe check that out right there.